Well, good evening everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fox Rage Q&A Lockdown. Very strange times that we're in right now. However, we're all doing our best to try and get that fishing fix one way or another. And one of the ways we're doing it here at Fox is to give you guys the opportunity to ask any of us any questions you've got or concerns or whatever it is you want to know about, and we'll do the best we can to answer them. And that's what we're doing tonight. My turn on the block. You've already seen Jason Stokes, great bit of advice on perch fishing. Craig Rannick, you know, he catches tons and tons of pike, great video as well, you know. So I'm going to do my best to answer your Zander fishing questions. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to crack on with it now. Right then, first question comes from Andy Stevens. His question is, I'm sure you can remember catching your first Zander. My question about it is, when you caught it, was it your target species on that particular session, or were you surprised to catch it? If it was design, how did you go about catching it, targeting it, and what did she weigh? Right then, Andy. I caught my first Zander probably, I don't know, not that long ago. Probably 6-7 years ago, something like that. And I've been out perch fishing elsewhere in the Midlands, on a canal I think it was, or one of the rivers. Anyway, I was coming back over the Fazeley and Birmingham Canal near Bodymoor Reef, Kingsby Water Park, and I just decided to stop off. I knew there was Zander there, and at that point I got my lure gear out, started walking on the canal fishing. Didn't really catch anything. To be honest with you, at the time I didn't really have much of an idea of how to fish for Zander, if you like, effectively anyway. So what happened was, I'd had a few casts around the area and whatnot, and nothing come about. So I was heading back to the van anyway. I was getting on at night, and I'd sort of been out fishing all day, so I was just walking back down the canal. And I was essentially trolling the lure behind me. And it, funny enough, it was a little Fox funk bug crankbait at the time. And I'm trolling this lure behind me, and I get this hit, and this Zander hits the surface straight away. And it's a really good fish, you know, certainly the biggest Zander that I'd ever seen at the time. And to cut it short, I didn't have a landing net, and so I went down to chin it out, and the hook spat out. That fish took tailed and disappeared. So after seeing that fish, I decided I'd go straight home, and what I did was I got the dead bait rods out, 2 rods, and took some roach out the freezer, come straight back down the canal, chucked them out in the exact same area that this fish had hit me before, and within about half an hour, just before dark, the rod rattled off, and there was a big Zander on the end, and I got the Zander in, and it was 10 pounds 2 ounce or 10 pounds 8 ounce, if I recall rightly. And that was it then. And from that point on, I've been absolutely fascinated by the species. I think they're a wonderful fish indeed. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, and we'll get on to the next one. Okay, so the next question is from David Smith. What would be the best advice you can give a beginner on planning a Zander session on lures on a canal? It's not that difficult of a question, I guess, but the best advice I can give you is to pick an area of canal that's well known for holding big shoals and schools of Zander. I know I say that, and it's very difficult. It's difficult to answer efficiently with all the electro netting and everything that's going on. So your best bet is to join somewhere like the Lowe Anglers Club on the Grand Union Canal. Whereas these little club waters, there are a few here and there. There's one sort of Coventry way as well, where their areas of canal where they get a little bit of protection from all the culling and everything. So I'll be looking at those areas of canals, and then basically lure wise, go as light as possible that you can get away with outfit on the canal. I mean, canals are often very short, they're not very wide. So, you know, light balance setup. Pick little lures. I'll put some in the box here. I shan't get them out. But little spiky shads, little slick shads to 7 centimetres, and get a handful of the bigger ones as well. But use a really light jigger, and start off that way. Keep walking the canal, searching the margins. Winter time, try and think of the tram lines in the middle of the canal, and those zander and everything will be tucked in and around them tram lines. In the summertime, you tend to find them more or less on your inside margin and on the far margin. So if there's any weed or reeds, anything like that really close in, I'd expect to find zander there. Okay, catching them, it is a bit of a hit and miss. You've got to put the legwork in, you've got to keep walking, searching the water until you locate one. Once you've located one, generally on the canals there'll be others about in numbers. Okay, and from there on you can fish either statically on the bottom, mid-water, or on the surface, or just under the surface rather, by using one of my favourite things to do is to use a 4-inch spiky shad such as that with a 5 gram jigger. Now, because of that paddle tail and a very light 5 gram jigger, it doesn't sink that quickly. You might think it would, but it doesn't. Okay, so a very steady straight retrieve, that gets me tons and tons of bites on canals. You see a lot of people spending too much time right down on the deck. Well, these zander, eyes on top of their head, they're always looking up, and believe me, they'll think nothing of coming off the bottom and smashing a lure sort of 6 to a foot under, 6 inches to sort of 12 inches under the surface. But again, it all varies on the day, and it's just about trying lots of different methods: drop shot, Texas rigging, straight jigging, straight retrieving, little chatterbaits, that kind of thing, spinners as well, little plugs, crankbaits, and just keep going and using those methods until you get something that you're confident in, and start focusing more on that. You don't need tons and tons of lures, just one or two colours, but your particular favoured pattern should get you a few bites. And like I said, you can't go wrong with a spiky shad. Okay, so David, I hope that answers your question, and we'll quickly move on to the next one. I was wondering when this was going to come up. Baz Hadlington, when fishing a river like the Severn, what weight do you use the most in normal conditions, and does this change with the depth? The weight that I'm using on the river all depends on the flow of the river rather than the depth, so to speak. If it's up and pushing, generally on the likes of the Severn and the Trent, the minimum sort of gram weight that we're using is from 20, more likely a 25 to a 30 gram, and on the Severn, when it's up and pushing, from 25 to 50 grams, and that's for the Trent as well, you know. Sounds like a hell of a lot. I mean, most of you guys that fish the reservoirs and stuff, you'll be using, to get down on the deck in 60, 70 foot of water, you'll be using sort of 50 gram jigger. It's nice and flat car, you get away with a bit lighter, but generally on the Severn, through the winter times, 20 to 50 gram, all depending on conditions. And that, if it's 14 foot, as I say, sometimes we can be using 50 gram, other times we'll be using 10 gram in the summer. So yeah, the simple answer is take a good selection of jig heads on that river with you, because believe me, you'll need them. And a lot of people get too fixed on fishing slacks and all that kind of stuff on rivers, especially in the summer months. And I can tell you now, those zander ain't there. Okay, those Zander are out in the flow, in the fastest paces water that you can find. 9 times out of 10, that's where you'll find them. Think barbel and you'll find a Zander. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Buzz, and we'll get on to the next one. Okay, Martin Reeves. What light and weather conditions would you say are perfect for Zander, and what's your most memorable capture? Now, it's very similar to a question that Jason had about perch fishing. Is there such perfect conditions for Zander? Yes and no. To cut it short, I've caught Zander in really bright sunshine and really overcast days. It's more about location and how that river's pushing and the clarity of the river as well. Okay, optimum depth when Zander fishing is at its best. You want to be looking at the river being up a touch or quite a lot. Okay, and you're looking for a clarity between, at its best, sort of 12 to 18 inches. Any more than that, then it does, you know, it's a little bit more difficult. But generally, when the visibility is 12 to 18 inches, that is when we've had our best Zander fishing on the likes of the River Severn and the Trent as well. If visibility is 4 to 6 inches, yes, they can still be caught. We do still catch them, but believe me, we bloody work hard for them. Especially those big ones. They don't come around easily, I can tell you that now. So yeah, what would you say is the perfect, what weather? So yeah, weather-wise, I think I've answered that for you. You know, it doesn't really matter about sunshine. It's all about the clarity of the water and the speed it's pushing. Okay. My most memorable capture. That's quite easy actually. There's a video on Fight Club that I did a few years ago with Fox. That was my first season, I think it was, with Fox, and I had a really difficult season. Previous year we'd caught lots of big fish. That year we really struggled. And it happened in winter, and check out the video anyway, because I had a really nice fish at the end, and all those times we struggled, you know, that one fish made my whole season, you know. So I think that's probably my most memorable sort of Zander to date. Okay, cheers Martin anyway, I hope that answers your question, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so next question comes from Matt Woolwich. What is the optimum size lure that you'll cast for Zander to try and catch fish of all size, and do you try natural fish patterns as much as possible? Well, the optimum lure size that my go-to lure really is the spiker shad. That size actually, the 13 centimetre. My favourite colours just happen to be that one, and that doesn't matter if the clarity is, you know, 12 to 18 inches or crystal clear. That is my go-to pattern. I absolutely adore that colour. Another favourite colour of mine is the orange tiger, hot tiger I think it is. Great colour, and of course you can't beat the silver bleak for those clearer, when the river's clear, more natural pattern, absolutely killer. And of course the motor oil as well. So those four would be my go-to colours, and you can see they're not really loud colours. sort of the hot tigers about the you know, the brightest lure that that I sort of use. I do catch Zander on the lemon tiger and whatnot, and it is a great colour. But if I had to choose 4, that would be they're my optimum colours for Zander fishing. Size wise, you know, I'm casting even these on sort of 50-gram jig heads. On the likes of the 7 and whatnot. You can see there's one on there actually. This is the exact outfit that I use. That's a 15 to 40 gram Fox Terminator rod with a Lowe Tie Pro or Pro Tie bait caster, 50 gram jig head, spiky shad. That's let me just think, I think that's 64 pound fluorocarbon tied with an FG knot onto, let me guess, let me think now, I think it's 28 pound braid that. And that is basically the outfit that I'm using for pretty much all my Zander fishing, whether that's casting, vertical fishing, sometimes a bit we do trolling as well, but when I say trolling, it's not trolling the lures behind the boat with miles and miles of line out. It's basically spot locking, a bit like vertical fishing, but you're actually moving at a very, very slow pace. So that's my setup anyway. Lure wise, it varies. Like I say, anything from sort of 13 centimetre. But most of the time when we target those big fish, we're using big lures, and I kid you not, you'd look at the lures and you think, you know, you choose them for pike fishing. Wet the whistle there. Well, that's the size of lure that we're using. Sometimes bigger than that as well, the slightly larger ones. And believe me, when them Zander get these lures like the Super Slick Shad there, they are nailed. That's, you know, could be 150 gram, 125 gram jig head, and believe me, they are right the way back in their throat. They do not touch the sides. And that's what we use basically. What else do you say? Question. So yeah, my optimum size anyway, the 13 centimetre up to stuff like that. All depends on conditions again, but most of the time, you know, we're casting this sort of thing and those. Okay, and the trick is about casting them as well is regularly changing on the areas that you're fishing is the weight of the jig head. You don't want it too fast, so you hear it and you absolutely feel it clatter the bottom. You don't want that. What you want is to be able to feel that lure down, but you just want to feel it just touch. You know, you don't want to feel it smack its face on the bottom. You know, you just want it to just touch. And it's a simple half crank of the handle sometimes, or a little jig, and you're just bringing that lure off. You're trying out no more than sort of 12 inches off the deck. Just touch, not clatter down, because then it's dropping too quick in the water, and you'll get all your takes when that lure's dropping through the water or it's stationary on the bottom. And believe me, them big Zander on that river, they absolutely rip your arm off and your heart will skip a beat. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Matt, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, next question. It comes from Matthew Mullins. What is it about Zander fishing that you like so much? I suppose the main, look, it's not about the size of Zander. I love them all. I mean, I really do. But them big Zander are impressive, you know. I love the whole body posture. I love the way that the gills flare. the pectorals stand, you know, all the fins stand on air, gills flared, and they just, oh, there's just something about them, and I really don't know what it is, but I am just hooked on fishing for zander. I absolutely love the species, and I think they're wrongly persecuted. I think they've got a real place in British fishing. Okay, Michael Stoker. Where do the really big zander hang out? What type of places are the best to target for the bigger fish? Well, I can tell you, if you go to the river, particularly when it's up and pushing, and you're fishing, well, any time of year, it doesn't really matter, but if you're targeting those slack areas, okay, there might be 1 or 2 areas where you find 1 or 2 zander, but I'm telling you now, the majority of those fish are on them crease lines in the fastest bit of water that you can find, okay? Just look at the body of a zander, look at the shape of it. Very similar to a barbel, whereas the head is sort of pointy and flat. So if you think about it, it's perfect for sitting on the bottom. As that water pushes over the head, it's pushing that fish down and keeping it on the deck in that flow. And believe you me, if you think barbel, locations, that kind of thing, that's where you'll find those big zander, okay? Don't be afraid to move off the crease, move past the crease, or fish straight out in the river and just let it drift round. But if you can find a spot somewhere where you can fish effectively with a crease line that's kind of got a steep marginal shelf where it's a bit rocky, I wouldn't tend to fish areas that are silty, purely because I've never had any real amounts of zander off those areas, particularly on the river. Caught 1 or 2, but the real big ones come from hard bottoms, okay? So you'll feel it, gravels, rocks, all that kind of thing, steep marginal shelves. Okay. Okay, so next question. David McKenzie. What is the best time of year for zander fishing and the best method, in my opinion, to catch them? Well, the best time it depends on, do you want to catch fish at their optimum weights? If so, just before the end of the season, you know, those last few weeks, February, March, that's the time to be on that river fishing for them big fish, okay? They ain't going to give themselves up easily, but it's all about putting the time in, putting the effort in, and if you do that, you will catch a fish of a lifetime, whether that's on the Trent or the Severn or, you know, the Thames. You know, there's places on the Thames that do huge zander as well. So yeah, it's all about the timing, time of year if you want to catch them really big fish. If you just want to catch numbers, then any time of year really. The beginning of the season, sort of September onwards, is very good on the rivers. If you want to catch lots and lots of zander, then go to somewhere like Rutland Reservoir and fish for the zander there. It can be a little bit challenging. There is a bit of specialist equipment to get the most out of it, such as a finder and whatnot. But my best advice is to get in contact with somebody that you know, or somebody that you're familiar with on Facebook. There's lots of good guys out there, believe me, and ask for them to take you out. If you want to catch lots of numbers on the likes of Rutland and whatnot, that's the place to go, okay? Because you'll catch lots and lots of small zander from sort of that sort of size to that sort of size. So even you might get lucky and get one of the doubles, especially if you're working the top sort of 25 to 30 foot and you're pelagic fishing. But to do that, you need, you know, state-of-the-art fish finding equipment to do it. Okay. Paul Varco. His question is, I assume your fish finder is the best piece of kit when Zander fishing. And any tips to locate them? I've got to be honest with you. If you want the fish finder to go out there and show you shoals of Zander, especially on the river, then it's not really the kit for you, because it's not going to do that. Okay. Finders on the river, what we use them for is to locate structure, locate the marginal drop-offs, most importantly to give us the temperature. Okay. If it's too cold, some days we'll go out there and you know, we'll be on the river for an hour or so, and if it's too cold we just won't bother. 8 degrees and above seems to be, you know, the magic number. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of something else I can add to that question, Paul. Really. Because what you've got to understand is the fish finder on the rivers, it doesn't tell you where the flow is. It doesn't tell you, you know, whether it's silt or gravel. You know, it gives you little indications and all that kind of stuff, but without actually being there and showing you, it's hard to understand. I mean, it's all about feel and the touch and having a little bit of watercraft yourself. So if you're looking for the flow, so you'll be looking for the crease lines, and when you spend a bit of time on the river, those things will become a lot clearer to you, and the river becomes a hell of a lot easier to read. Okay. You'll see it on a windy day as well. You'll see that. See, if you look down the river, you'll see like little flat areas, and it'll sort of wind and meander around the river. Well, they're actually that's the flow. That's the flow line of the river, you know. So there's a little tip for you. Okay. So yeah, it's all about watercraft, and like I say, yeah, sure, fish finders help you, but they don't put fish in the boat for you. You know, you don't go over the top of them and go, oh, there's a Zander, because them Zander are so hard on the deck, they just don't pick them up. However, if you're looking for bait fish, yes, they'll find your bait fish. Yes, they'll find your bream as well. That's actually a very good one. If you can find the bream, generally on the rivers, you'll find 1 or 2 Zander amongst them as well, and usually big ones. Okay. So cheers, Paul, and I appreciate the question, and I hope that helps you. We'll move on to the next. Okay, well, Kirk Wright, how did you get into Zander fishing? Please don't go off. How did you get into Zander fishing, and do you still love it as much as the day you started? Well, that goes back to a question that was asked earlier on. I got into it fishing the canals and whatnot. I don't tend to bother with the canals anymore, and I'm kind of sad about that, because I used to love it, absolutely love it. Unfortunately, Zander are now, you know, get persecuted quite a bit. I have to go elsewhere to get my fix, where they're not persecuted as much. Okay. So yeah, I still love it. Well, I love it more now than the day I started. I love catching big Zander. There is no other fish like them, to the point where my other fishing has gone on the back burner. My pike fishing and my perch fishing has really suffered over the last few years, purely because the amount of time I put in on that river fishing, you know, with my buddy. We have such a laugh, and we do well. But you know, these big Zander, they're like rocking horse dung, you know, they don't come around every so often. You just never know. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I lost a massive fish at the back end of the season, and it's something that, you know, I won't forget it. And I just got to get back on there. I just got to get back on that river, because there's some mega fish on it. Okay. Okay, the final question, and this is a difficult one. This is not going to be easy to answer at all. This question comes from Paul Bickley. As there is still a lot of Zander, electro-fishing for Zander, what can we do, in my opinion, to help secure the future of Zander fishing? This is a really difficult question. Until Zander get took off the invasive species list, they're always going to be persecuted. I think what we can do as anglers, is try and keep positive about the situation, try and be respectful, and just basically try and show Zander in the best way that we can. Not only is a fish to fish for, but it's very difficult to answer. But yeah, be respectful. Sorry, it's the dog. Get out. Go on. Yeah, so be respectful, and try and show Zander off in their beauty, you know, because they are a beautiful fish, and we can do that through pictures, through video, through film, and just show the joys that catching, you know, these wonderful fish bring to us as anglers. And I guess you can join various clubs around the Midlands areas that we've already mentioned earlier. What's it called? Zander Anglers Club of Great Britain. Join that. I know Neville works very hard with a number of other guys to fight this battle that we all face about the persecution of Zander. But like I say, all we can do is keep positive, keep supporting people like Nev and a few other guys out there, and hopefully one day we'll see things change. Okay, so thanks Paul for that question. I hope that answers in some way. I know it's not the answer that you want to hear and all that. I wish I could give you the answers, but unfortunately I don't. Well, all we can do is keep positive. Okay. Hello, and you thought I'd forgot. I forgot to mention the winner earlier on for the Fox Rage Zander Pro Shads and for favourite question. And the winner, well, my favourite question that was asked tonight goes to Andy Stevens. So Andy, get your address and everything sent to Steve Phillips at Fox Rage. Just message the Fox Rage website, or sorry, the Facebook page rather, and Steve will get them lures on their way to you, mate. All right, cheers again, guys, and take care.